rise.
The Kosovo Specialist Chambers is now in session.
Please be seated.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome inside and outside the courtroom. Before we start, in my decision to set the date for this initial appearance, I had anticipated some pictures by a photographer, but I think, counsel, that you have some reservations with picture of your clients. Is that the case?
Yes, Your Honor. I have advised my client not to have his picture taken. Is it?
Yes, it works.
Your Honor, I've advised my client not to have his picture taken. He is not a publicly known figure, and I guess his privacy is endangered too much by his photo wandering around the internet in connection with this case. So I think his privacy should be considered in this matter.
Counsel, would you agree if we were to take group settings, i.e. not a close-up on your client, because this hearing is broadcasted on the internet anyway, because we have publicity of proceedings, but we have pictures of the whole courtroom and not a specific close-up on your client. Would this be agreeable to you?
That would be agreeable. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel. I will ask the photographers to make pictures of the courtroom itself and no close-ups on the accused, please. You have 1 minute and a half. Thank you, Madam Photographer. You may now leave the courtroom. Madam Court Officer, can you please call the case?
Your Honor, this is file KSC BC 2023-10, the Specialist Prosecutor versus Sabit Januzi and Ismet Bahtjari.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Before asking those present in the courtroom to introduce themselves, I would like to remind everyone of a few rules that must be observed at all times in order to make courtroom proceedings smooth. Please make sure that you activate your microphone before speaking and that you switch it off as soon as you're finished. Talk slowly and clearly, as we have interpretation from and into Albanian and Serbian. And wait 5 seconds before responding to me or a party or participant in order to allow the interpreters to finish the interpretation. What is said in this hearing is transcribed in real time and will be reflected in a transcript available to the parties and to the public after this hearing. I would also like to remind the parties that certain information in this case is subject to protective measures and confidentiality orders. Confidential information shall not be disclosed in open session. If any party or participant must go into private session and refer to any confidential information, please indicate the reason. And I would like to ask the parties and participants to introduce themselves, starting with the Specialist Prosecutor's Office. Mr. Prosecutor.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. On behalf of the Specialist Prosecutor's Office, Josh Shafitz, Tasneen Shahbudin, Durkian Laman, John Devaney, and behind me, Fabian Unsernad.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Now I turn to the defense, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. My name is Hendrik Sietema. I'm a member of the Hague Bar, and I'm here in my capacity as duty counsel for Mr. Bahtjari.
Thank you, Mr. Sietema. And now let me turn to the registry, please.
Good afternoon, Your Honor. Jonas Nilsson, Deputy Registrar. I'm representing Registry today together with Head of Unit and staff of the Court Management Unit. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nilsson. And for the record, I note that Mr. Bahtjari is also present in the courtroom. And for the record again, I am Nicolas Guillou, pretrial judge for this case. The accused is appearing today for the first time before the specialist chambers following the indictment confirmed against him. Mr. Bahtjari, will you please rise? Could you please tell us your full name?
Ismet Bahtjari.
Please your date and place of birth.
27th of February 1963, Fustiz e Postme.
Citizenship, or what are your citizenships?
Albanian.
Is your current profession?
I am a builder. I am an electrician.
Mr. Bahtjari, you may be seated. Let me now move to the procedural history of the case. On 2nd October 2023, in my capacity as pretrial judge, I confirm the indictment submitted by the specialist prosecutor against Mr. Bahtjari, charging him with the offenses of Count 1, attempt to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by serious threats. Count 2, attempt to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by participating in the common action of a group. And Count 3, intimidation during criminal proceedings. On 5 October 2023, the SPO arrested Mr. Bahtjari in Kosovo, at which point he was served with the confirmed indictment. Mr. Bahtjari was transferred to the detention facilities of the Kosovo Specialist Chambers in The Hague on 6 October 2023. Mr. Bahtjari, before we proceed any further, I have to make sure that you can follow the proceedings in a language that you understand and speak. Can you confirm that you understand and speak Albanian?
I confirm, I do confirm.
Bahtjari, by this, I am satisfied that you can follow the proceedings in Albanian, a language that you understand and speak, in accordance with Rule 92 of the Rules of Procedure and Evidence. If at any moment you do not understand or you are not receiving interpretation, please draw my attention to it immediately.
It's all fine, I shall do so.
Now, let me explain the specific purpose of the initial appearance for the benefit of the accused and those joining us in the public gallery and to follow the proceedings online. Today's hearing is not a trial. No evidence will be presented or debated, and the guilt or innocence of the accused will not be discussed or decided. The purpose of this initial appearance is regulated by Article 39 of the law and Rule 92 of the rules. According to these provisions, I shall have the charges in the confirmed indictment read to the accused in a language he understands and speaks, confirm that the accused understands the indictment, satisfy myself that the rights of the accused, in particular his right to counsel, are respected, inform the accused that within 30 days of today's hearing, he will be called upon to admit guilt or plead not guilty on each charge set out in the indictment. If the accused wishes to do so, he may immediately admit guilt or plead not guilty. And finally, I shall also set other dates as appropriate in performing my functions as pretrial judge. I expect the parties to adhere to these matters, which I will address in turn. Should either party wish to discuss any other matter not expressly foreseen in the context of this initial appearance, they are invited to do so in writing by making a filing before me. First, Mr. Bahtjari, may I ask you to confirm that you received the confirmed indictment in a language that you understand and speak?
Yes, I do confirm.
I will now ask Madam Court Officer to read out the charges in the confirmed indictment as foreseen in Article 39 of the law and Rule 92.
Thank you, Your Honor. In the confirmed indictment, the Specialist Prosecutor charges Mr. Ismet Bahtjari with Count 1, attempting to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by serious threat punishable under Article 401(1) and 5 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15(2) of the law. Count 2, attempting to obstruct official persons in performing official duties by participating in the common action of a group punishable under Article 401(2) and 5 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15(2) of the law. And Count 3, intimidation during criminal proceedings punishable under Article 387 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code and Article 15(2) of the law. 2. These offenses were committed between at least 5 and 12 April 2023. 3. In relation to these offenses, there is a well-grounded suspicion that Mr. Ismet Bahtjari is criminally responsible pursuant to Article 16(3) of the law for A. Committing the offense under Count 3 pursuant to Article 17 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. B. Co-perpetrating with Mr. Sabit Januzi the offenses under Counts 1 to 3 pursuant to Article 31 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. C. Assisting in the commission of the offenses under Counts 1 to 3 pursuant to Article 33 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. D. Agreeing to commit with Mr. Sabit Januzi the offenses under Counts 1 to 3 pursuant to Article 35 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. And or E. Attempting to commit the offenses under Counts 1 to 2 pursuant to Article 28 of the 2019 Kosovo Criminal Code. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Court Officer. Mr. Bahtjari, I wish to remind you that it is not time to contest the charges, but simply to acknowledge your understanding of the charges. You will have ample opportunity to challenge the charges with the assistance of your counsel. Mr. Bahtjari, did you understand the charges contained in the confirmed indictment as read by Madam Court Officer?
Yes.
Bahtjari, you may be seated. Now let me inform you about your rights before this court. The law on the specialist chambers and the rules of procedure and evidence guarantee you a number of rights, and I will read out the most important ones. First, you shall be presumed innocent until proven guilty beyond reasonable doubt. In the determination of the charges against you, you are entitled to a fair and public hearing, subject to any measures ordered for the protection of victims and witnesses. You have the right to be informed promptly and in detail, in the language which you understand, of the nature and the cause of the charges against you. You have the right to adequate time and facilities for the preparation of your defense, and to communicate with the counsel of your own choosing. You have the right to be tried within a reasonable time. You have the right to be tried in the presence of your counsel and in your presence. You have the right to have counsel assigned to you and without payment if you do not have sufficient means to pay for it. You have the right to examine or have examined the witnesses against you and to obtain the attendance and examination of witnesses on your behalf. You have the right to have the free assistance of an interpreter if you cannot understand or speak the language used in the court. You have the right not to be compelled to testify against yourself or to admit guilt. You have the right to remain silent, and no adverse inference shall be drawn from your silence. You also have the right to make unsworn statements relevant to the case, and you may appear as a witness under oath. You have the right to lodge preliminary motions, to challenge the jurisdiction of the specialist chambers, to allege defects in the form of the indictment, and to seek the severance of the indictment. You have the right to receive, within 30 days of today's hearing, the supporting material to the indictment submitted for confirmation. You have the right to receive all statements of witnesses whom the specialist prosecutors intends to call to testify at trial in the language you understand and speak, namely Albanian. You have the right to receive immediately any information which may reasonably suggest your innocence or mitigate your guilt, or affect the credibility or the reliability of the specialist prosecutor's evidence as soon as the information is in his custody, control, or actual knowledge. You have the right that all material and relevant evidence or facts in possession of the specialist prosecutor be made available to you before the beginning of and during the proceedings. This right is only subject to restrictions which are strictly necessary and when any counterbalancing protections are applied. You have the right not to be detained for an unreasonable period prior to the opening of the case, to request review of decisions on your detention, and to appeal such decisions directly before the Court of Appeal. You have the right to appeal directly before the Court of Appeal a decision on preliminary motion challenging the jurisdiction of the specialist chambers, and you have the right to seek leave to appeal other decisions. Mr. Bahtjari, you have heard the most important rights that you enjoy in accordance with the applicable legal framework of the specialist chambers. Do you understand these rights, Mr. Bahtjari?
Yes, I do understand.
I wish to inform that according to Article 21.5 of the law, you may not represent yourself because you are currently in detention. Representation by a specialist counsel is therefore mandatory. It is my duty as pretrial judge to ensure that your right to counsel is respected. To this end, I have noted the registrar's filing informing me of the assignment of duty counsel. I also understand from the registrar's filing that pending the appointment or assignment of counsel, you have been assigned Mr. Hendrik Sitema as duty counsel in accordance with Section 17.2 of the Directive on Counsel and Regulation 21 of the Legal Aid Regulations. Mr. Bahtjari, can you confirm that Mr. Sitema has been assigned as duty counsel?
Yes.
Mr. Bahtjari, you may be seated. It follows that the accused is presently represented by specialist counsel. Counsel, do you wish to add anything specific on the representation of the accused?
Thank you, Your Honor, not at this moment.
Thank you, counsel. I will now turn to the possibility for the accused to enter a plea, if any, in accordance with Rule 92. Mr. Bahtjari, within 30 days from today, you will be called upon to admit guilt or plead non-guilty on each charge in the confirmed indictment. If you wish to do so, you may choose to immediately admit guilt or plead not guilty. I would therefore like to ask you, Mr. Bahtjari, if you had had the opportunity to discuss the charges in the confirmed indictment with your counsel, and if you are prepared to enter a plea at this time. And if this is the case, I invite you to stand up while you plead. Mr. Bahtjari.
Not guilty.
Plea of not guilty today, correct?
Not only today, I'm not guilty all the time.
Thank you, Mr. Bahtjari. Counsel, just to make sure that it is crystal clear in the transcript, Mr. Bahtjari enters a plea today and he pleads not guilty, correct?
Thank you, Your Honor, that's correct.
Thank you, Mr. Bahtjari. Thank you, counsel. You may be seated. Now, let me move to the working language in the proceedings. In the scheduling order for this initial appearance, I asked the parties to make oral submissions at today's hearing on the working language to be used in the present case according to Rule 8. Could the party indicate their preference for the record? And I will first ask the prosecutor's office. Mr. Prosecutor.
Thank you, Your Honor. Our preference would be English.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. This is noted. Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. The same goes for the defense.
Thank you, counsel. I will issue a written decision in due course on this matter. In the scheduling order for this initial appearance, I indicated that I intend to schedule pursuant to Rule 96 the first status conference on Thursday, 12 October 2023 at 1400, 2 p.m. The purpose of this status conference will be to review the status of the case and to organize exchanges between the parties to ensure expeditious preparation for trial. Mr. Bahtjari, I wish to remind you that you have the right to attend the status conference with your counsel. However, with your written consent and after receiving advice from your counsel, pursuant to Rule 96.2, the status conference may be attended by you in person with your counsel participating by video conference link, by your counsel with you, Mr. Bahtjari, participating via video conference link, or it may also take place in your absence, Mr. Bahtjari, with your counsel present or participating via video conference link. And I remind everyone in that regard that should counsel of the accused or the accused wish to participate via video conference, written notice must be provided within 24 hours in advance of the relevant hearing so that the registry has the time to make the appropriate accommodations. Such notice shall be sent via email to the registry and should include the written consent of the accused. The registry shall file these emails as correspondence on the record in the proceedings. I should now ask, I would like to ask the defense whether it plans to participate to the first status conference in person or via video conference link.
Thank you, Your Honor. I will be present here in the court.
Thank you, counsel. This is noted. And your client as well, I guess?
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess so. Yes.
Thank you. If it wasn't the case, you are invited to communicate this to the registry. Thank you.
I will. Thank you.
Mr. Prosecutor, do you have any comment on the status conference?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. You will receive a scheduling order that will include the agenda in due course, probably tonight or tomorrow morning. I will also ask the parties for written submissions ahead of the status conference on the topics that will be on the agenda. And I intend to schedule Wednesday, 11 October at noon for the date for filing these written submissions. After the status conference, I will issue a decision on the specialist prosecutor's obligation in accordance with Rule 102 and on the redaction regime for the proceedings. But before I issue this decision, I will seek submissions from the parties. I recommend that the parties review my framework decisions on disclosure in all the cases before making their submissions. At this point, I would like the parties to ask the parties whether they have any other issues that they would like to raise. And I remind the parties to give prior notice should any submission require the disclosure of confidential information, so that appropriate measures may be taken. Mr. Prosecutor.
Nothing from us, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Prosecutor. Counsel?
Thank you, Your Honor. Nothing from the defense at this moment.
Thank you, counsel. And finally, I would like to ask the accused whether he has any issues to raise in relation to his arrest, transfer, or detention. Mr. Bahtjari.
I do not have anything to add. My counsel has all the details. I don't have anything to add or take away for that matter.
As you remain in detention, Mr. Bahtjari, I would like to inform you that you may challenge your detention on remand in accordance with Rule 57, and this will be dealt with written rulings. This concludes today's first initial appearance. As usual, I thank the parties, the registry, the interpreters, stenographers, audiovisual technician, and security personnel for their assistance. The hearing is adjourned.
All rise.